I feel at this point.
Well, let me ask you the big question. Is this enough to prosecute for murder, or do we still have to wait for the DNA test results to come back with an identity to attach to the DNA to then match up with the air sample? Yeah.
Well, one thing that the world needs to know is you can absolutely charge someone with murder without having a body, but you have to prove that there was at least a homicide, and I think that the authorities would wait to prove that that was at least Casey's DNA. Not to mean that it was a homicide. It could still be an accident, and we'll be looking to see what happens in this immunity deal.
And Doug, how does this dovetail with the immunity deal? And the clock is ticking. The latest word we've gotten is that she has till Tuesday. They extended it. Why would they extend it? And what do you think they're offering her in exchange for giving them information that will lead to Caylee's whereabouts?
The critical word that everybody has used tonight, Jane, is limited immunity. And what that means in simple English is they will not use the words that she utters to them in court. They agree to that. However, they do not agree that they will never prosecute her. What I suspect is going on, first of all, your first question is a good one. Why are they extending it? I think because obviously they really need it, and so they're willing to extend it. But I think the reality of it is that at this point, with the pieces of the puzzle sadly falling into place the way they are, and I think we all know, I mean, they want to hear that this was an accident and that she panicked and covered it up, which I think is a pretty strong likelihood.
In fact, two of her friends said that they thought she didn't have the capacity to be malicious enough to do anything intentional to her daughter, but that they thought it was probably an accident, and then she, quote, freaked out and did something to cover it up. Donald Schweitzer, former detective, Santa Ana PD. How does this limited immunity work? I mean, we saw that the lead investigator going to visit the lawyers today. There's a flurry of activity. Do they just hand a piece of paper, or do they walk in like they do in the movies and say, hey, make a deal with us, you better start singing like a canary right now?
It's a very formal procedure. There are papers that are signed. The case goes before the judge. The judge makes sure that the person's entering into the agreement knowingly and intelligently. But it's usually not a good idea for the prosecution, because if that person keeps speaking and speaking, it's hard to tell what they're relying on when they go to trial. So limited immunity is not always the favored tool. It shows me that they're giving her a break, and probably because they just want to put this case to rest. They want to, you know, finish the investigation and move on, is what it seems like to me.
We have with us tonight Leonard Padilla, the bounty hunter who helped get Casey Anthony out of jail, who has since said right here on our broadcast that if he knew then what he knows now after the 400 pages of documents that were released, he would not have bailed Casey out. Your reaction tonight to this latest development that evidence of a dead body in the trunk of the car has now been found?
Very sad, and my feelings for the grandparents are, you cannot imagine how the grandparents are going to feel. I know that this afternoon when I heard it, her mother, Casey's mother, was en route to the house where Casey was with Casey's attorney. But George, Caylee's grandfather, had not arrived yet, and I can only imagine that it's going to just totally tear him up. It's just a terrible thing.
Now, you're the man who got her out of jail. She was in isolation for more than 35 days in jail. For all we know, she might have been on the verge of cracking. You have said, essentially admitted, that you made a mistake in getting her out of jail because you thought she'd have a hot meal and a manicure and start talking, and she hasn't.
Not a word. Not a word. She hasn't uttered one word in the direction of, let's go find Caylee, let's look at this, let's do that. Not one word.
Well, do you have a sense of remorse or regret or guilt that you got her out of the slammer, given everything that's transpired, given everything that we know now, given that the whole key to this case lies in what is in her brain, and that it might have been more pressure to keep her in jail to talk than to allow her to go home to a comfy bed and nice meals and the comfort of her parents?
Well, you know, you can go, it can fall both ways. On the other hand, you know, she's home now. What's been done can't be undone. And I only
Can't it be undone? Can't you revoke her bail?
Oh, yeah, sure, but you can't turn the clock back. Yeah, you know, you can take her back to jail, and we have every right to now that the new circumstances have changed the terms of the bond.
Well, why don't you?
Well, that's my nephew Tony Padilla's call in Sacramento. He's the one that, he's the bail agent. He's the one that's going to make that call tonight sometime.
I thought, what? Oh, you mean make that decision, not make that
Correct.
phone call. Make that
No,
decision.
make-
I thought
no,
the
he'll-
buck stopped with you because you're wearing the cowboy hat.
Yes, but he's also the bail agent. I can sit here and say, hey, I don't want to be on the hook anymore, but it's his call.
What are you going to tell him? What are you going to suggest? You're the uncle.
He's got to grow up. It's time for him to make a decision like this.
But in your heart, do you regret getting involved in this?
Yes. Yes, I do. It
All
was
right.
it was obviously not the thing to do now that because she didn't talk. She didn't say one word to anybody. I'll tell you another thing. She didn't say a word to me. She didn't say a word to her mother or her dad or her brother.
Absolutely shocking. The phone's obviously lighting up with these shocking bombshell developments. Mary in Maryland, your question.
Yeah, I have a question to the bounty hunter. Does he still think that Caylee is alive after all the results?
Leonard?
No, I don't think so. No, it'd be. I mean, you know, it could be right now with the results from Tennessee. There, you know, it could be another body, but let's face it. On average, it ain't gonna be.
Here, he jumped up into the trunk, front paws, stuck his head in, backed up, did the eye contact, and moved to the right rear passenger side rear fender / trunk taillight area, and gave me a fine train on alert.
What does that mean?
He alerted to the odor of human decomposition.
George Anthony admitted to the FBI that when he first smelled his daughter's car, he thought it was the odor of a body.
There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car.
Police also spoke with the facility manager of the tow truck company that was holding Casey Anthony's car. And he told cops that the smell coming from Anthony's car reminded him of the smell from another car where a man committed suicide.
I'm Jane Velez-Mitchell in for Nancy Grace. More bombshells tonight. Stunning word now that air samples revealed there was a decomposing human body, which means a dead body, inside the trunk of Casey Anthony's car. This is the mother of that gorgeous little toddler, Caylee, who's been missing for 10 weeks now. The news comes as authorities turn up the pressure on Mother Casey, offering her limited immunity in exchange for giving them the real story about where Caylee is. But the biggest stunner, that evidence of a dead body, which dovetails Jessica D'Onofrio, reporter for CNN affiliate WKMG, with what the tow truck driver said, with what Cindy, Casey's mother, originally said, and with the cadaver dogs.
I mean, we've been waiting for this for a long time now because there's been so much dispute over this. I mean, we've been talking about Cindy Anthony and, you know, her coming out and saying, oh, no, it was rotten pizza in the trunk. That's what the smell was from. And then just a couple weeks later, the sheriff's office releases those 911 tapes, and you hear a totally different story. You hear Cindy Anthony on the phone screaming, it smells like a dead body in this trunk. So we've been waiting now to hear what these results were going to be, and now the University of Tennessee, which has a body farm there, and they are experts at this, they have returned these preliminary results, and you know what they're indicating is that there was a decomposing body in that trunk. Again, these are preliminary results, so what I do understand from my sources close to the investigation is that they are going to try and do some more testing to solidify these results and, you know, dot their I's and cross their T's on all of this. And
do we have
again,
any idea when the DNA with the identity would come back to match up with these air samples? We've been waiting forever.
Right, still waiting on that right now. They were sent out to the FBI. They're processing those lab results, so, you know, we're waiting on pins and needles to find out.
There was an overpowering smell of my dad.
At first glance, you thought this may be the smell of a body or decomposition.
It's a possibility, yeah. I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, maybe my daughter ran over something.